Now, this is where we ended in our previous video on how to translate or convert the conceptual design into a logical design. So I thought it was really complete, and I have even labeled this slide as the complete logical design for our library management system. But then later on, I realized that actually it is not yet complete. Okay, on this part here. Okay, so that is why we have now our part two on how are we going to convert or translate the conceptual into a logical design. Okay, so going back before we're going to continue with uh, the update. Okay, so I just want to go back with okay, so from the conceptual design, okay, for example, on the author and the books, okay, so we have here our uh, relationship. Okay, the relation is author writes a book, and we have converted this relation into many to many. So what we did is we have created an extra table for this one. But how about if ever one to many? So what we did is only created a foreign key into the book or into the many side. Okay, so we have here into our publisher. So in we have just created here uh, a foreign key. Wait. Okay. So we have here created a foreign key for the many side. Okay, but if ever we have a many to many, okay, so we have created an extra table and then get uh, the foreign key from each of the related tables. Okay, so what we were actually doing here is we are doing database normalization. Okay, so by having as of now only we have our foreign keys. Okay, then as I have mentioned, I have here the complete logical design. I have labeled it as a complete logical design, but then I found out there's a problem into our transaction here. Okay, but anyway, okay, so the relationship for book and the borrower is that many one or many borrowers can borrow many books, and many books could be borrowed by many borrowers. So that is why we have here a many to many relationship. That is why we have created here an extra table, and we get uh, the foreign key from the book no, from the borrower and from the books table. Okay, so one borrower can borrow many books. Okay, so that is what we have in this table. Okay, but the problem is actually lies in this table. Okay, in this entity here. So what would be the problem that is going to arise if ever that we are going to uh, leave it this way? It's actually on the data normalization. It's still on we could still normalize it. It is not yet on its third normal form. Okay, why? Because we could have still some duplicates. Okay, so I have just presented it here. For example, we have here the borrowers, okay, and we have here sample for the books. Let us say Fried Partusa has borrowed 3 books. So we have here the borrower ID is we have 111, then the date it borrowed, and the 3 books borrowed by Fried Partusa. Okay, so then we have Sophie Dave borrowed 1 book, and Marcus Lanzones have borrowed 2 books. Okay, so with this table that we have, and by the way, this table here is same with our table transaction here. Okay, so we could see here some duplicates. Okay, so the ID, the borrower ID, appeared 3 times, and so with the date. Okay, although with the books, with the three different books, but then it has duplicates on the borrower ID and the transaction date. Okay, so that's the problem. So that is why we are still going to um, normalize this table. So how are we going to normalize this table? So we are going to separate them into a master detail format or a header detail format. So we are going to divide this table into two by having then this side here would be for the master table, and the detail would be the books that has been borrowed. Okay? So to separate them, we are going to have now this setup. Okay? So instead of we're going to have the borrower ID and the date, instead they are going to have three records. For example, here we have three, so we have just created only one record. Okay, and so all of those borrowers are going to borrow has only one transaction for each of the dates that they have. Okay, that they have transacted into our library. Okay, then each of the master record here will have their detailed record into our detail tables. As you can see, for we have here this header ID now is actually the ID here, because here in our master table, this is our primary key. Take note, this is our primary key, because this is not the primary key. This is because the borrower, for example, Fried Partusa, could still borrow after he returned all of the books he borrowed on this transaction. He could still have another transaction on the later date. Okay, so that is why these header IDs here are actually the IDs on our primary key here. Okay, so one primary key. So we have 3 ones here, and he borrowed 3 books. Who is this one? So we are going to look up into our master table, and we could see here one. Then who is one? Another look up, so we have it there, Fried Partusa. Okay, and so on. Okay. Oh wait, 3. Okay. Oh, I think I have a problem here. There is a problem here. Okay. So this should be, since number 3. Okay, take note. Since number 3 has only going back here. Okay, I missed again this one. So number 3 has only one book. Okay, he borrowed only one book. So therefore, and number 3 is on ID number 2. So therefore, this should be ID number 2. Take note, this should be ID number 2. And we have here borrowed book number 3. Book number 3 here. Borrower number 3, book number 3. So we have here, this should be number 2, because we are now referencing on the primary key. And this one here should be 3. Okay, because we are now referencing this number 3 here. Okay, so I'm just going to edit. Okay, I'm going to edit so it should be okay for the header ID and book ID. Okay, so 1 1 1, then books 1 2 and 3. Then for header number 2, he borrowed book number 3, and for header number 3, he borrowed books 1 and 3. Okay? So this should be the content of, okay, I'm just going to have it this way. Okay. I'm just going to edit. Okay, book ID. Then we have, okay, it must look like this. Okay. Okay. So again, now don't be confused, because actually me myself I was confused when I created this image here. Okay, so header ID is actually this one here, because this is the primary key. So we have 111, so we have it there. Take note, the reference for the header ID here is for uh, the primary key on the master table. Okay, then header number 2 has only one. This 3 here, by the way, is not this one here, but it is the book. Okay, this one here. Okay, and it is the borrower number 3. Okay, the borrower number 3, and he borrowed book number 3. Then for the header number 3 is we have 1 and 3. Okay, so again, sorry for the mishap here, but I hope you get you fully understand that this header ID here is not the borrower's ID, but it is the primary key onto our master table. Okay, so then this now the fully normalized transaction table. Okay, so one borrower can have one or many transactions, and as you can see here, our primary key, okay, is the foreign key in our header ID. And going back, we have here our header ID. Okay? And one transaction can have many books, or can have many details. Okay? And in every transaction detail can have one or many books. Okay? So for the complete logical design, so we have this one now. Okay? So we have separated or divided the transaction table into header and detail. Okay? Again, only the header is connected to our borrower, and the detail is connected to our book table. Okay? And the rest are the same. Okay? So hopefully you have fully understood the way we have separated our transaction table. Okay, so that's all for the part 2 of how are we going to translate um, conceptual design into a logical design.